Hey everybody, Josh from Populi. Today we're going to talk about the setup required to generate transcripts. You as institutions, as schools out there, you need to be able to do this. And what is it with students really wanting their transcripts? It seems like when they've paid a bunch of money, they feel like they need to show that they've actually accrued all these credits and everything. It's like, relax, right? But don't worry, because Populi can be set up so that you can generate transcripts for students, get them to stop hassling you so that you can get back to what really matters. Having a little nap at your desk in the middle of the day, avoiding some of that work. Or you're done with your work, so now you got some time. Okay, so let's look at an overview real quick of what we're going to do today. We're going to look at getting programs set up and assigned to students, how that happens. We're going to figure out the transcript layout. We have a couple options there. We'll run over that. We're going to talk about entering historic course data for students, getting their kind of actual list of courses by term all set up and everything there. We'll look at creating grade scales. If you want to be able to show that a student did work, received a grade on a course, you'll need a grade scale in place, so that'll be part of it. And then also, if you want to be able to show on a transcript that somebody did work towards a degree, pursuing a degree, or that they had a degree granted, you'll want a degree in place so that you can actually attach that to students. And remember, we're thinking about this from the perspective of a school. You might be in the situation where you're setting things up kind of for the first time. And so we're going to cover the kind of streamlined process that you'd want to take just to go from kind of nothing to be able to generate transcripts for students. The other thing that we'll want to look at real quick here at the beginning are the roles necessary for this. If you have the academic admin role, then that will allow you to manage programs and grade scales, two really important parts of this process. Most of the rest of this you could do with just the registrar role in place, but our recommendation would probably be to have that academic admin role there to make things simple. First step is getting that program set up and assigned to students. There are exceptions to what I'm about to how I'm about to lay things out here. Different schools, as we often say, do different things. But the most kind of typical way of thinking about your program and transcript relationship is that whatever courses are mapped to a program will end up on the transcript. So this can help guide you as you're thinking about how to set up those programs, because if whatever you want to end up on the transcript should be associated with that program. That's going to be a necessary link there. So the hierarchy is that we've got that program up at the top, and then under that, or kind of associated with that, we've got the transcript that you'll end up with. Then under the program in that hierarchy, we've got the course A and course B there, just whatever courses are going to be associated with that program. If those are mapped to the program, then those courses are going to end up on the transcript itself. This hierarchy is really important, and it's really that hierarchy that enables you to think about this the right way. So, for instance, what we do here in Populi, making videos and everything, there's a hierarchy. And the hierarchy is that I'm in charge, and then under me is my brother Gabe. He has to do whatever I say. It's part of the hierarchy. And if he does whatever I say, then we get a video. If Gabe disobeys, if he's being bad and is not doing what he's told, no video. Okay? Just kind of putting that out there for certain people. Because the program and transcript work this way, it's important for us to talk a little bit about what we mean by program, what you might mean by program. There can be some equivocation of terms there. What we mean by program would typically correspond to a broader category like undergraduate program versus a graduate program. You might talk about your English program or your nursing program, but those would be for us in Populi ultimately like departments or degrees, right? So within that English program, you might have an associate's degree and a bachelor's degree. For us, those would be individual degrees that are listed under your undergraduate program. If a student is taking courses for credit, and we would want those courses to all show up together on a transcript, then that will define the boundaries of your program there. So for instance, if a student completes an associate's degree in biology, and then they decide, well, I do want to go on to get a bachelor's in English, they could take the credit that they have, the courses that they already took for that associate's degree in biology, and kind of parlay them into their English degree. Some things are not, it's not necessarily going to apply to the degree requirements there, but as far as basic credits, things that should show up on their transcript, even if those are in two different kind of departments or areas of study. So that's what we mean. And that's the right way to think in Populi about how to set up a program, is going to be in terms of what you want to see on your transcript there. So what we're going to do now is look at how we'll actually create a program in Populi. We're going to go into academics and then into programs. And you can see that we've already got a number of programs set up here. I'm going to choose to add a program. We're going to give it a name. And then we're going to choose the units that we're going to track with here. You'll know this for your institution, but you can choose to track in terms of credits or hours. That's set right there. That can be changed later. This next one, however, the level here that you're choosing, you can't change later. If you are talking about degrees, awards that are granted under a master's, so anything at the certificate, at the associate's, the bachelor's level, it's an undergraduate degree. Beyond that, master's, doctoral, other things would be graduate degrees. So you'll choose that level. You can also choose whether or not this is hidden from students. That totally hides the program from students. If you need to do that, you can do it and it will be a secret. You can also choose whether or not it's continuous enrollment. This is a setting that feeds into SAP for financial aid. We're not going to cover kind of all the ins and outs here, but just so you know, we do have documentation on that. You can dig into that if you need to designate this as continuous enrollment for SAP. Okay, so then we would just save this. And once we've done that, we can click into it here and you can see these various settings that we have. This is the most essential part, is just getting that program created. And that's really all there is to it. The program is created and we're all set. So the next step is getting that program assigned to students. This involves admissions. Okay, so I'll give you kind of a description here. We're not going to go into too much depth about exactly how to set that up. Typically, a student, as they're applying to your school, if you're using the admissions section and all those applications are set up from within Populi and students are submitting them, they're ending up in Populi here. Students will be selecting a program of study. Then, once they have that application associated with their profile, when you go to accept that application, you'll be given an option to import course of study. That will include the program. Frequently, under that, it will also include a degree as well. So once you have import that course of study, students will get the program that they've chosen. So assuming that you're using admissions and those applications are coming in and you're importing the course of study, you won't need to go in and individually set programs. However, especially as you're working with kind of getting up to speed, you might have students that you will need to set programs on. You'll need to go to their profile directly and do that. So we'll walk through that right now. I'll click on the student tab, and then you'll see that you have the option to add a program. If for some reason the student's role is inactive, they would still have the student tab here, but they wouldn't have this option. So you'll want to make sure that that role is set to active right there. So we're going to click add a program, and then we will select the program that we just set up, just as an example here. So we're adding the program, we're setting the entrance term, the start date. If you have some of these other details that aren't going to come in from the student via sort of their admissions process, you could pop those on there. And then we would just save. And now you'll see the student has a program here. Again, I want to reiterate that students have to have a program in place to be able to do anything with a transcript. So this guy's got a program now. You'll see, though he doesn't have any courses associated with that program, there's nothing we can do for him in the way of a transcript. Just doesn't have anything there. So we'll go to another student, Tim McGregor here. On his student tab, he's got a transcript tab, right? But no program over here. You'll notice that even though he has courses listed, there's nothing that we can do for him transcript-wise right now, right? There's no option here to export a transcript or anything for him. That's because he doesn't have that program in place. So he has courses, but no program. You might be in a situation where you needed to diagnose that. Why don't I have a transcript option? Might be because you don't have a program associated with a student. Let's go look at another student real quick. And you can see, program and courses listed over here. We get this transcript actions button. And that's where we'd be able to go in and actually export a transcript. We'll cover that again in more detail later. Okay, the next step, the next thing we need to talk about is figuring out your transcript layout. You have two options. Basically, you can use the default layout. That's a very straightforward, just a little bit generic. You will have some of your own styling. If you have uploaded your own logo, then that will be included as part of the PDF or other document that you generate that transcript as. It's not completely generic, but it's fairly generic. The other option is to contact support, and you'll work with them to set up a custom transcript. That second option has some limitations. If you're going to set up a custom transcript, it's often advisable to send along a version of your old transcript, and we'll try to make the new transcript match that. But just so you know, we're not always able to get it to be an exact one-to-one correspondence there. However, we are able to get those looking good, and you should be able to get something that you're satisfied by working with support. That workflow of working with support there to get that custom transcript looks like this. We design a layout for you in OpenOffice. We upload that file under communications, print layouts. That's where those are going to live. And then when you go to choose a transcript, you're able to choose that layout, and that will define what the transcript looks like, all that kind of stuff there. So once we've got that created, we'll let you know, okay, that transcript is in place. You can go check it out. Then you'll go and export a copy of that transcript for an example student, have a look, and then see if you have any further tweaks or anything like that. And then it's kind of an iterative process going back and forth with support to get that locked down with a version of the custom transcript that will do the trick for you. And just to also throw in there, we can do those as unofficial transcripts or official transcripts. So that's another layer there. If you, for some reason, want to have an unofficial transcript that's really different than your official transcript, you're able to do that. Okay, the next essential step is entering historic course data. There are really three major options for this. One is that data is imported during implementation. So you are coming from a previous database and working with our implementation team, they load all that data up. Profiles are already associated with courses, so that just takes care of itself there. But you might also be going course by course, inputting a roster of students on each course instance. If you're manually entering that data, you might have, courses with rosters, and you're just inputting folks that way. We'll look at that as an option. And then we'll also look at an option for going student by student. This is if you have, say, paper transcripts. You're working from those. You have a student's courses by term. You would then just go in and enter those. So we'll look at each of those options. Obviously, the first option takes care of itself. If you've already had your data loaded, then you're good to go. You won't need to get these students into their courses. But if you're using one of those other methods, then you would need to. So working course by course there, one of the first things that you'll do is we want to be able to figure out easily if this course is finalized or unfinalized. You can see here in this term, all these courses are unfinalized. We'll look at a previous term here, and you can see that some of these courses have a lock in that finalized column. Those are all finalized courses. You can't enroll a student in a finalized course. So you may need to go and unfinalize a course there. That might be something that comes up. So we're going to look at how we get to an actual course instance so that we can demonstrate how to input students in these courses. You could either go to academics, academic term courses, look at the correct term, and then find that course there, that course instance, or you can come up over here. You can just search for the course, click on it. Want to make sure that you're looking at the right term over there on the right-hand side. And then we can check and see if this course is finalized as well. Real quick, you can see that we have the option to finalize the course, so it's unfinalized. Great. Where we're going to work to get those students enrolled is on the roster. So you can see that we've already got students in this course, but if we want to add students, we just come up here to add students at the top, click add students by name. So we're going to search for a student, get a result, select it if it's the correct result, and then keep going. Just finding those students, entering them in until we get a list of students here that were actually enrolled in this course, and then save that. Then they will be added to the course right there. So you can see Javier's added up there. So that's the basic process for getting students in if you're working course by course. Now let's look at how we would do that student by student. So this is if you have a stack of, say, paper transcripts that you're working from. You would come to the student's profile, to the student tab, and then over on the right, you're going to see the courses sill. You'll click edit for that. You'll scan back here using these arrow buttons back to a previous term. Going back to the spring term, we're going to find a course that the student was enrolled in. We're going to select it and then save. And then if we go down to the spring term right there, you'll see, there that student is in that term. Now at this point, in order for a student to actually be granted a grade and credit, you would need to go do that on the course. This is true if you're working course by course or student by student. Once you have those students in those courses, they need to be granted grades and finalized. So we're going to go to this course just as an example here. And we'll real quick look at how you would edit grades here on the grade book. We're going to give these students a grade in the course and then save that. So now they have a grade. You can then finalize the course. You can do that here or over on the settings tab that shows up either place. In this instance, I'm just going to go ahead and finalize the course in all students, but you can also just choose to finalize individual students there. You hit submit, and now this is a finalized course, which means if we go back to Tim's profile here, back to his student tab, and then back to that spring term, now he has his grade and his earned credits and his quality points and all that included here. And again, that's something that you would need to do for each student in each of their courses that you want to show up on their transcript. Obviously, you can export transcripts that have in-progress grades, but if a student has been granted a grade and credit in a course, you would want to have it finalized so you can show that there. Next thing we'll look at is creating grade scales. Now, there's a lot of complexity to creating grade scales. We're not going to dig in super deep on this. I'm just going to show you the basics. There are 2 levels of grade scale. Grade scales exist at the global level and then at the program level. The program level is an optional grade scale. So if you have an undergraduate program and a graduate program and they have a completely different grading system, then you're going to use the program level grade scales. If you have only one program, say an undergraduate program, then you would just be able to set up your global grade scale and that would work. Or if your undergraduate program and your graduate program have the same grading system, the same grade scale there, you would be able to just set up that global grade scale. So let's look, we're going to just focus on the global grade scale, although I'll show you real briefly here where you would set up the program grade scale. You'd go to academics, programs, and then undergraduate, and then you'll see a grade scale right here that you can opt to use. If you're going to be using the global grade scale, you would go to academics up at the top here, and then into settings, and then into grades and attendance. We're going to add a grade scale. You can see there's already one in place. We're going to add one, and we'll do that for 2019-2020. That's the academic year for which this grade scale will take effect. So it'll take over whatever was previously existing. Let's go through each of these columns here and talk about what they mean, how they work. Right here, you can choose a letter. This is pretty obvious. This contains all of the letters there that you could potentially use. Okay, so we've got an A+, A-, so on and so forth, all the way down. That's just where you set that. Minimum points right here gives you the ability to set the lowest possible point for which someone could get this grade. Okay, so for A+ here, what minimum points means is that if they get a 97, 97.1, 98, 99.5 up to 100, they're going to get an A+. Okay, so that minimum point threshold defines the bottom of the A+ or the A or whatever on down the list there. So all you really have to do is set the minimum points for each of those grades, and then Populi will automatically assign the correct letter grade. Direct equivalent is a little bit of a different idea. Basically, Populi stores all of the grades that we grant in terms of that numeric value. That's how we're able to kind of change between grading systems and all that. Is we're thinking in terms of numeric values there. But not every faculty person might think in terms of just that numeric value. They might just go, that's A level work and then assign an A, or that's A+ work and assign an A+ or whatever. So we still have to record a numeric value for those letter grades. So that when a faculty person chooses an A, Populi can't just record the letter A, they have to record a numeric value there, or the system has to record a numeric value there. So that's what direct equivalent is. That means that if you give someone an A without giving them a specific number score, they are going to end up with a 98.5 or a 95.5 or whatever. So usually what folks do is they choose the midpoint between the bottom of the grade and the top of the grade. So in this case, we've got a 97, the top is 100, so then the direct equivalent is 98.5. I think that's what we automatically by default just give you there, is the distance between those 2 points. You can set that to be whatever you want it to be, so that if a teacher assigns an A+, that student automatically gets a 100. You can set that up so that it'll do that, or for any of the other grades there. That's what we mean by direct equivalent. Grade points. The grade points obviously are just defined there for each grade. These are the grade points, quality points, whatever you want to think about them as, that are going to associate with those different levels of grade there. So that's fairly straightforward. The fail column just gives you the ability to choose which grades result in a fail. So a fail grade does not actually grant any academic credit. So if for whatever reason you have a D and a C minus that don't grant academic credit, you would be able to choose that there. And then that would affect those grades that way. And then obviously you're able to delete any of these individual letters here. You should be able to set this up on your own. If there's something that you're doing that's really out of the ordinary with grading, you are able to get in touch with support, and there are some options that we might be able to suggest there. But for the most part, you should be able to manage this on your own. So obviously, once you've made those changes, you save, and then you've got a new grade scale in place there. Real quick, I just want to point out that we do have a pass-fail grade scale. It works basically the same, but obviously it's going to be pass-fail. So that's an option on every course. You can choose to set the course to be pass-fail for everybody. You can also choose to set individual students within the course to be pass-fail. And this is the grade scale that we'll look at for those students' grades if they're set to pass-fail. And that, like I said, works pretty much the same way that this does, just with fewer grades available. Okay, let's talk about creating degrees. Degrees exist in a hierarchy under programs. So when you create a degree, you'll choose to place it underneath a specific program, and then that's where it will be. So you'll create your, say, associate's degrees or your English bachelor's degree underneath the undergraduate program, and then it's going to be within that hierarchy of programs. There are a lot of additional sort of ins and outs associated with degree requirements that we won't cover today. That's something that we'll definitely cover at some point. I'm talking about degree audits and various things that way. So we're not really talking about defining a degree. We're just talking about building a degree so that you could note on somebody's transcript that that degree was granted there for them, or they were pursuing it or whatever. Let's look at creating a degree. This happens under academics, degrees, and then we'll click add a degree. We're going to give it a name real quick, an abbreviation. And then there are various things we could choose down here. We could give it a description. We're going to choose the program that it's going to be associated with. We'll choose the undergraduate program. This is, something that we mentioned previously. Department may be what you're thinking of program as, a particular group of courses and degrees and everything that fit within a certain heading. So this, we have a literature and writing department. We're going to put this particular degree under that one. We're going to make it a 4-year degree. The level will be bachelor's. And then there's some other details that you can fill in there. CIP code, it's going to be helpful for IPEDS reporting, some financial aid stuff potentially, so that'll be a good thing to fill in. And then whether or not this is actually granting a diploma here, and then whether or not it's distance education. So we'll save that, and then you'll see it listed there. Now, the most important thing that we need to do right now, we're not worried about course groups and requirements. Like I said, that's part of degree audit kind of stuff. We're not covering any of that today. What matters to us is the status here. No student can get this degree if it's in construction status. So we would need to click edit here. And then here's that status. We can click active and then we can save. And once we've done that, we'll now be able to go to a student and actually add this to them. I'm going to go back to Javier, to his student tab. And then you can see that he has the undergraduate program, which he'll need for this degree. And I'm going to add this degree to his profile, Bachelor of English. We'll backdate him as though we're inputting an older degree for him. And then we'll enter his pursuing date. We'll put that back a couple years. We'll change his anticipated completion date there. And then we'll want this to show on the transcript. And then we'll save. Now, you can see that he's showing up with a pursuing degree. Let's just say that you're going to need to do this for folks who are currently matriculating students who are currently pursuing a degree, but you'll also need to do this for students who've already received degrees. So once you have added the degree and you want to set it to granted, you'll click on those 3 stacked dots over here, choose edit degree, and then over here under status, you'll set that to granted, change whatever details you might need to change there, and then save. Okay, so now Javier has a Bachelor of English degree that has been granted to him. It will show up on the transcript that way. The next thing that we're going to do is look at actually generating those transcripts. Let's go to a particular student here into her student tab. And then down here on her student tab, we can see her transcript history there. We want to generate a transcript for this student. They have a program, a degree, and then all of their courses. We're going to click on Transcript Actions, and then we're going to choose to export transcript. You can see that we've got some other options here for transcripts. We're not going to cover those today. We're just looking at actually getting transcripts set up and generated here. So we'll click Export Transcript. Type, we're going to do an official transcript. And then we're going to choose the built-in layout. This school, our example school here, has an official custom layout transcript set up. But we're just going to use this one so you can see what that looks like. Recipient here is where you would choose to, if you wanted to note that this was headed to a particular school, you would put details about the school in there so that the transcript has that specificity designated on it. We're going to click Export here, and then we'll have a look at what we've generated. Again, this is a pretty bare bones built-in transcript here, but this is the basic idea. You can see that we've got that program listed, that degree with information. This is a pursuing degree that she has here. If it had been granted, then that would show up there as well. Any other degrees that she's been granted within this program at this institution would also show up. Then all of these courses that are mapped to the undergraduate program for this student will show up here as well. And then totals and things, cumulative information here at the end. That has taken us all the way from programs getting set up, assigned to students, talked about our transcript layout a little bit. We looked at entering historic course data. We also looked at creating grade scales, setting those up, and then creating degrees, adding them to students, and then finally actually generating those transcripts. This is everything, or the bare bones at least, of everything that you would need to do in order to get your Populi instance set up so that you can get students' transcripts when they request them. Thanks a lot for watching. Feel free to click that subscribe button. You'll get that notifications bell. Click that too, ding, ding, ding. That will make sure that you won't miss any new videos that we upload. Also, thanks a lot for using Populi. I've been Josh. You've been great. Bye-bye.